Alright guys, here I am today back with another episode of Scratch Programming. So today we're going to learn how to add more levels into your game, add in hazards, add a button/puzzle system, and add, my personal favorite, a hopping character. So first of all, let's go over what we talked about last episode. Last episode we learned how to make our character jump and move back and forth. And yeah, that was pretty awesome. Because now I can go like this. Woo, woo, woo. In fact, I think I'm going to do the hopping character one and possibly the puzzles and a hopping character and another one. It really depends on how long this takes. So, let's start off with adding more levels. So, now, it's going to start off with a when flag is clicked, forever, and then an if statement. I'm sure you're not very surprised by this. So now what you want to do is add an if and then touching color. Now what you're going to want to do is go into costumes and go into the ground one. Now you're going to want to pick a color. I'm using dark green. Select the box one and select either kind of box and put it in. But before you do that, you're actually going to want to expand the length of your box a bit. So now our box is this sized. So now scripts, let's go back to here, and if touching color, and then we select the color of the box. And now I'm going to do the first broadcast of this. Broadcast, and then you want to make this message next level. So now you're going to want to go into ground, events, when I receive next level, control, and what you want to do is just simply do a next costume. And with the player, you're going to want to find a good starting spot that you're going to start at the beginning of each level. So let's go here, and I'm going to say here is a good start spot for the beginning of each level. Now, here's a good start spot. And so now you're going to want to set this to, and do another broadcaster thing. When I receive next level, you want to go to this place. So now this means that basically when you touch that, it'll broadcast the message next level, which will basically switch the level's costume and send you back to start. So now what you want to do is go into the levels and go to costumes, because obviously to do this you need more costumes. Guess how we're going to make our next level? Same way we made the last one, but change it up a bit. So let's say, zoom in a lot, and let's do, let's see, so I want this to go like this, and then like this, and then this is going to be a wall jumping spot. And then, actually, this entire thing's going to be wall jumping. And then you're going to want to jump to, actually. So this is how level design works. If this is your first time seeing it, well, I hope you're impressed. No, just kidding. So this is going to be a wall jumping spot. And then this. Let's add one more. And then we can go like to there. And then to there, and then this will be the end of the level. So, this is our new level. Now, we're going to convert it to a large size level like this. And same way we did it last time. Very simplistic. You want to go down here and up to here, and then over to here, and then over to here. And yeah, this is our level. But first, you need to have this like there so that you can click there. And this is the new level. So let's start it, and you're starting fine. So now let's go in and edit the parts that need to be edited. So this, and yeah. Okay, so now let's zoom into I actually, first of all, need to grow you only a little bit so that I can edit it. So let's just do this and this. Now let's see, what is the... Perfect. So let's just say this is where we'll start with our level design. So now we're currently designing our level. It's a very nice level, I will say. Not just because I made it, but because I actually have new things that I can do. Like, I did not know you could wall jump with this. So, obviously games with character tails will require different designs, but I'll show you that later when I actually get to the character tail, which might not be even in this episode. Really cool, and if you watch the last episode, you'll see it. So yeah, here's our wall jumping platform. We need to add a little bit of a platform to each side of these as well. To make sure that we can't get on them. And so now we are doing this, and making some good edits to this. And so now, okay, so now you see we have our wall jumping platform, we have our starting platform, we have pretty much everything we need. And I mean, obviously I need to add the gray thing to those other blocks, but other than that, I'm pretty good. So let's get you fixed up. So we have our wall jumping platform, we have our other platforms, we have pretty much everything we need. I actually do need to change that very top one to a black. Okay, now we're going to take and add some gray to each of these blocks as well. And as you can see, I'm currently adding stuff on. And it's not too difficult of a process, I will say. I'm gonna have to do this, aren't I? And so, as we continue to do this for each and every one of these, yeah. So, this is a very simple platforming game. I'm sure you get the gist of by now how the level system's working, but I'm just going to finish this and we'll see how it looks in a minute. But basically, what I'm probably going to cover today is how to make good levels, which good levels have a equal mix of challenge but easiness in them. I'm just going to cover this right now while I'm drawing this because it's easier than spending time covering it later. So yeah, good level design requires isn't too hard. You just have to make it so that it's not too hard but not too easy at the same time. And if I seem like I'm being a hypocrite sometimes, it's because these are the first 2 levels of a game. Like, you want to make your levels get progressively harder as the game goes on. If you've ever played any video game, you'll notice that the final boss is much harder to kill than the first boss. Or the final level is much harder than the first level. I mean, it just makes sense. Would you really want to all of a sudden jump your player in on a level that requires skill sets that, like, you only get with playing through the game over time? That you only get with... So yeah, the levels get harder as the game goes on because players get better as the game goes on. Makes sense. I think that's a very fair idea. So... yeah, that's how level design generally works. And that's how it should work. On the other hand, another thing I wanted to talk about was character design. Also not too bad. You want something simplistic, not too difficult to make. If you're into art, then make something very complex. But remember, you're going to have to draw it multiple times in different forms to make it move. But my suggestion, it also depends on what you're using. Some systems, things are easier. And so some people who are pixel artists might make something a bit larger than that, and then make it slightly different size, and do level design differently, and make the levels differently. But today, I'm not the person who you go to for, like, master tips. My thing is simplistic level design. That's what I'm doing here, and that's what I'm showing all you, which is my goal. My goal is to get you guys to be able to make a very basic, but not too easy, to play platformer. If you have any suggestions for me, tell me in the comments. Yeah, that's about it, though. And so this is my next level. So doesn't it look nice? And yeah, so let's see, how difficult is it? So yeah, see, that was my new level. Required some wall jumping ability, required some scripts. Did I have a... No, okay, so another thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to find a good spot for levels. Control, and then... So this seems like a very good spot for my level to start. Yeah, that seems like a perfectly fine spot. And then we're going to want to set it to right here. Go to X to Y6, and we're going to want to do... And so now, when the levels begin, you'll always get a good spot. Seriously, look. And so now I'm going to make my box for end level. And you know what? Just because this is a very simple version... Actually, you know what? No. I'm going to... And so this is how you make more levels. And so now... Look. And so wall jumps... More wall jumps... And level completed. See how hard that was? An interesting thing about this jumping type, though, watch. You can jump in midair, but jumping in midair does not jump as far. And another thing is, let's see how long. Okay. Another thing is that you should make good level designs. So, what else did I say I was going to cover? Oh, I said I was going to cover a puzzle system, which isn't going to be too hard to make considering I'm already making more levels. So, say I do this, and I go into here, and I stop the program, obviously, and I duplicate this level once. And now I go into this level, and I erase something. Like, let's say I erase, let's say I set all of this to the color black. That would make this level impossible, right? Well, it should, unless you added a puzzle system, which is what I'm going to show you right now. A puzzle system. Basically something that if you touch it, it will make the level continue on so that you can do this. So I'm just going to make a very simple one. You can make much more complex ones, but I'm just making a simple one currently. So I'm going to make a line. And let's just say that that's my puzzle thing. So now, scripts, and let's go to player, and if duplicate, if touching color, so I'm going to change this to if touching color, and then this color, broadcast, new message, switch. And switch is actually going to work in pretty much the exact same way as the other one. Actually, it's going to work exactly the same except without the character moving backwards. And that's why you have to make a different one. And when I receive switch, so set this to duplicate and set it to switch. But this makes it so that the player doesn't go back to the other spot. So now let's start costumes. Let's do this, and let's start this level. And now, as you can see, all of a sudden, it's the version of the level that's actually possible to beat. So that's a very simple puzzle system, and this is a very simple. And obviously you can use it for much more complex things, make things work much differently. And yeah. So this is the level system, and the puzzle system, and everything else. So yeah. Another thing, what else did I have on the agenda for this episode? Tails. Making a tailed character. It's not very difficult. Just take your standard character, add a new sprite. Zoom all the way in like the last time. Go over to this, and very simply just draw a very simple design like this. This is actually going to be, it's not actually a tailed sprite, I'm just calling it that because I can't think of anything else. You'll see what it means in a second. As you saw, my hopping character. And so I'm going to name this the leg. I could name it the spring. I could name it whatever I wanted. I'm just naming it leg for the sake of, you know, usefulness. Now, file save. And I'm just going to pause the recording for a second because I want to make sure I am doing this right. So this is what I was talking about. A tailed character. And the way you do this is you basically add basically the same thing you had for jump onto your character. But also on the leg, you need all of this. So this first one is if touching the color. This is the thing that runs the switch. You actually don't want the wait 0.5 seconds. I don't know why that's in there. But, so this allows you to broadcast the switch. I just went over and got the leg from my other game because I couldn't remember the exact code. So, if touching color gray, it actually reacts differently to the color gray than we do. Whereas this bounces us back. It actually just does basically the same thing. In fact, I'm going to fix this. Because on my player, I have it if it touches gray, I have basically the same thing except times -4. So, yeah. That's basically the same thing, times -4, and it goes back one layer. I'm going to save that to 3 layers actually now. When I receive finish, basically if you beat the game, which I'm going to show you next, it's actually very simple, and it has all the same things like that. It has the gravity, it has pretty much everything else. But this is where the magic happens. So this, you want to have all this, you make it by doing the same thing I just did. Switch costume to costume 2, or in this case, costume 1. They're named backwards by accident. I should probably fix that at some point, but that's beside the point. Anyway, switch costume to costume 2, or costume 1 in most cases. And go to X position of player. So X position of player is in sensing right here. X position of player plus Y position of player, which is just gotten by doing this and switching that to Y position. Plus 20, which means it has plus -20, which means it's 20 below our character, and the character hops up and down. Now, the one thing I do believe I have wrong here is in the player scripts. I believe I have to move this somewhere else. So set Y to Y position plus 5. And scripts. Forever and events when flag is clicked. And let's just click the flag. And there we go. There, now everything's working. And as you can see, the player actually hops off the little peg, which allows me to bring down the gray thing down to -1. But otherwise everything stays pretty much the same. But this can add for some pretty big things, because when you're in the air, your jump will do less. So this is how you make a tailed player. It's very simple, but I'm going to change this back to -1 now because of the hopping, and this also back to -1. And this is how you make a very simple platformer. I hope you have... Oh wait, I still need to show you guys how to make hazards. Hazards are very simple. You just have to see, you can't even fly this game. Now, obviously, you want to make sure your levels are a bit more fine-tuned than this when you go in and make your own platformer. I hope you haven't been I hope you've been making your own levels And tailed players are really fun to have around. But hazards, very convenient thing. Because of weird glitches, your player has the magic ability to move through blocks, which is very annoying at times because people can just glitch through your game like that. Which is why I invented a hazardous system. Hazardous system is not an acronym for anything, though I should probably come up with an acronym because that's just an awesome acronym, hazard or hazardous. But I won't do that right now. But you might be saying, well, why does that happen? That doesn't do anything. Well, what I'm going to do is add a new variable called death count. And death count does this. And death count change in player. Change death count by 1 if touching color. I think you see where this is going. And then the yellow. If I can get to the yellow. There's the yellow. Okay. If touching color yellow, change death count by 1. And now, so, forever, and when flag is clicked, and now I'm going to clean all this up. And then and then you want to add another if statement inside the if statement. If death count equals whatever number you choose. I'm just going to use 4. Then events broadcast die. And then with this, when this receives die, actually, when you receive die, when I receive die, costume 1. Character, player, when you receive die, when I receive die, simply go to that spot, this one, 217, and so this makes it so that when a player will die multiple times, and how do you get die again? It was if death count equals 4, broadcast die. Oh, also, if you do that, you also need to do this. And I need to set death count to 0. And obviously at the beginning of the game you can set it so that it will always go back to the very beginning of your game. And yeah. Oh, I didn't occur to that. And you always want to make sure your levels are glitch proof, because sometimes they are not, as you are seeing right now. But this because these levels were not designed for a tailed character. They were actually designed for a not-tailed character. Anyway, so yeah, this is a tutorial on how to make a simple platformer. Thank you, and goodbye.